there, this is Matt once again, and welcome back to another video. This is a thoughts on a TV show, this time of the A-Team. In my free time, because for those who watch my channel, the reviews you've been seeing, I've pre-recorded them a while ago. In the meantime, I've been watching this show thanks to my very good friend, one of my brothers from another mother, Effrey, sent me the whole season, the whole series of the A-Team. Been a lot of fun rewatching these. I'm a big fan of the show. Definitely one of my favorite shows, and definitely one of my favorite shows from the 80s. The A-Team, it's hard to review a show because how do you review it? Meaning, it'd be impossible for me to go over every single episode. But to tell you how I first experienced this show, when I was living on a farm, way back when I was a kid, we only had maybe 4 channels. 2 versions of CBS for some reason, ABC and PBS, so did not have NBC. And if we did, I would have been too young to even remember the show. So it was from tapes that my aunt would send me, and she would send me episodes of the X-Files, Simpsons, things of that nature, and including the A-Team. And I fell in love with it since then. It's a fun show. It was created by Stephen J. Cannell, may he rest in peace. This is a guy who had a hand in creating quite a few shows, including Knight Rider, The Commish, many others. For those who watched TV back in the day, you'll remember when they showed the end credits of the TV show. He's the guy typing at the typewriter, and he gets the paper out. It's like, and the paper kind of freezes. And I always remember that image. And the way it happened was he was talking to Brandon Tartikoff, who was the head of NBC. And Brandon Tartikoff pretty much said, hey, I want a TV show. It's like Mad Max, but it's not Mad Max. And it's like Dirty Dozen, but it's not Dirty Dozen. I'm guessing Mad Max reference is the car chases, car stunts, which there's a lot of car stunt work, and they make cars, or they take a vehicle and they put armor and steel on it. Quite a few of these episodes do have that sort of thing happen. And then of course Dirty Dozen, it makes self-explanatory. So then Stephen J. Cannell and the other guy, I believe, he created, but I think there was another guy. I believe the guy's name was Frank Lupo. I could be wrong. They did the show and no one thought it would be much of anything, meaning they didn't think it would be a hit. In fact, the very pilot episode, this guy, Dirk Benedict, was not Face, the con artist character. He wasn't in it. It was another actor, but they felt the actor just didn't work out, and he just seemed too young to be a Vietnam vet, too tall, and he didn't work at all. I think he would have been the sticking point if he stayed on with the show. So after the pilot, they cast Dirk Benedict, which worked a lot better. And the show became a hit. Became a huge hit for NBC, #1 show for them, humongous hit. But even though it was a hit, they didn't get any respect. The NBC executives talked down to them. The studio, the network, never liked the show. They will always go on about, when asked, oh, well, NBC, we're about proper shows, like, I think, what was it, maybe St. Elsewhere, or I forget what shows were on NBC at the time. Those were the proper shows, but, yeah, the A-Team's a hit, but that's not what we normally do. And people were, embarrassed to admit if they liked it. There are interviews online you can find with Dirk Benedict and Dwight Schultz, who played Murdock here, that there'd be people at parties whisper in their ear, I really like the show. And like, apparently you're dumb if you like the show, and blah, blah, blah. So the network never gave them respect, even though they were a huge hit. And they didn't treat them, the stars, with respect. And so they went strongly for the first 3 years. Season 4 ratings slipped a bit, which I don't understand, because when I watched season 4 again, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I loved it. I still thought it was a very strong season. But it slipped. Maybe, I don't know, maybe people at the time got tired of the formula, which it is a formulaic show, but to me it's a formula that works and it's a lot of fun. So by the time they get to season 5, they changed things up and pretty much killed the show. Ratings slipped even harder, and that was reason enough for NBC to pull the plug. It's a TV show that you would call a supernova, much like Elf, another NBC show, which I highly enjoy. I have the 4 seasons of Elf that are from overseas in Germany, because those episodes are actually longer than the DVDs in the US. Yeah, Elf, if you're a fan of the alien from Melmac who loves cats in certain ways, get the DVDs from Germany, because most of them are the full episodes and not the cut down syndicated episodes, cut down for time. But yeah, Elf and the A-Team, there were 2 shows for NBC that were supernovas, meaning when they hit big, but something that goes twice as hot fizzles a lot sooner. And so that's what happened to not only Elf but the A-Team. Now, what made the show work was a number of reasons. First off, the cast. That's the main crucial point of the show that works, is the cast. I mean, you got Mr. T, of course, from the success of Rocky 3. I'm sure it's one of those things that, Brandon Tartikoff and the people at NBC is like, well, we want to show a Mr. T as well. I'm sure that was part of the rationale. He's B.A. Baracus, the tough guy. Then you had Faceman, Templeton Peck, played by Dirk Benedict from the original Battlestar Galactica. He's the smooth but fun con artist, trying to steam items, people, women, things of that nature. You had the leader, Hannibal, played by George Papard. Which is sad to hear when you hear stories that behind the scenes he was not a nice guy. Dwight Schultz, who played Murdock, who I'll get to in a minute, right here, he talked about how he first met George Papard, and George Papard, the first thing he said to him was, "My name is George Papard, and I'm not a very nice man." He also had problems with Mr. T, because he was the star of the show, but truthfully, Mr. T became the big star of the show. And George Papard, he's a film actor, and he's the lead of the team. He's the first on the intro. And I think, honestly, he was jealous of Mr. T and his success and his fame. So Mr. T and George Papard did not get along because of that. Which you couldn't tell from watching the series, but it's sad to hear that George Papard was not a very nice guy behind the scenes. But he did give a really good performance. He did a great job. And you also have Howling Mad Murdock, played by Dwight Schultz, who had been in films like Alone in the Dark, pretty decent slasher film from the early 80s. He's the helicopter pilot, but he's also insane. And the 4 of these guys' chemistry worked excellent. I mean, that's what made one watch the show. It's the 4 of these guys interacting with each other. And my favorite part is when these 2 characters, B.A. and Murdock, Mr. T and Troy Schultz, because Murdock will always try to piss off B.A. with his craziness, And Mr. T, stop that jibber jabber, fool. I will pity you, fool. B.A., this is your roots. This is dirt. I don't know stuff in your face. The way those two interacted with each other, these two guys here, definitely the best part of the series. One of my favorite episodes is a episode where they have to get on this plane, and the character B.A. is afraid of flying. And that happens throughout a lot of the episodes where that's referenced or that becomes a part of the plot, where they have to keep thinking of different ways to knock them out to get on the plane. But there's a point where B.A., Mr. T becomes catatonic, and Murdock is just trying to wake him up, and oh boy, is that the kind of time to choo-choo? Come on, B.A. Hamble's got this thing locked down. If you keep at this, someone's going to put you in front of a store holding the clock. I mean, they did a lot better than I could. Again, these two guys worked so well together. And I know this is really stupid thinking, but this is how one of the... Well, there's many reasons why I love the show, but this is one of them. When I watch these two, of course, for those who know my channel, they know I am a big Ninja Turtles fan. So the way I always looked at it was if Mr. T was Raphael and Murdock was Michelangelo. And I, as a fan of those two characters of the Ninja Turtles, I could totally picture that happening. In fact, when I watched like the 2003 Ninja Turtle cartoon, and I will admit, even like the first season of the 2012 Nickelodeon cartoon, the first Nickelodeon one, like the first season too, I could see that with Raph and Mikey and their interaction. So the way those two interacted, and the way these two interacted, you could see that easily place one with the other. And on a tangent, if you did make a new Ninja Turtles movie or whatever medium, take a look at this show and take a look at these two characters and the way they bond with each other in a weird way. Take some notes. But again, that was sort of always the thing. Even when I was a kid, I always pictured that. That was fun. You definitely see that in the 2003 cartoon. The 2003 Ninja Turtles cartoon, there's a lot of moments with Mikey and Raph where I could easily picture Mr. T as Raph and Dwight Schultz as Mikey. Easily. The 2003 Ninja Turtles cartoon did that the best. But anyway, back to the A-Team. But these four worked very well. And like I mentioned before, it is a formulaic show. But like I said, if the formula is fun, that's fine. Now, what do I mean by formulaic? For the most part, granted, there's always differences, but for the most part, a show will begin with a person or persons being attacked by the bad guys, either messing with their business or messing with their friends or family or all the above. Person or persons has to go find the A-Team, usually with Hannibal in a disguise. They hire the A-Team. Usually you have an early action scene where the A-Team gets the one-up over the villain. A lot of times there'll be a point where the A-Team gets captured, and then they have to plan their escape. A lot of times there's a little montage where they trick up a vehicle. I don't know why I said video. Trick up a vehicle, pimp out a vehicle, or use their environment, build things, build weapons, all sorts of stuff. Sort of like a MacGyver type of thing. And they win, they save the day. There's a lot of things. You have like B.A. Murdock, their interaction together, Face, kissing the girl in that one episode, whichever girl it is, Hannibal saying, I love it when a plan comes together. And again, the formula worked for the 4 seasons, including the 4th season, which it gets some flack because the ratings were dwindling, but this was a lot of fun watching it yet. It's the 5th season that I have problems with, but I'll get to that. But like I was saying, if the formula works, it works. And you had good, entertaining action scenes. Yeah, it's funny how the critics, and it shows how worthless critics are, they said this is the most violent show ever. To the point that Captain Kangaroo himself, I am not kidding, Captain Kangaroo himself, the guy who played that character, said that the A-Team were the reason why kids were having drug problems. Don't believe me, watch interviews with Dwight Schultz and Dirk Benedict where they talk about that, like Q&As and such. And it's the most violent show on TV, and I'm thinking, man, I wonder what these people would have thought, I don't know, watching 24 with Kiefer Sutherland, X-Files, Millennium, Dexter, The Sopranos, want me to go on, CSI Miami, where there's blood and death and violence, and they want to say that the A-Team was the most violent show. I mean, it's ridiculous when you think about it, and it just shows how worthless a lot of critics are. And really what this is, it's a live-action cartoon. Like, take the G.I. Joe cartoon, make it live-action. In a way, that's the A-Team. Just the A-Team, they can fire 100 rounds, but they don't kill people. That's why I never understood, oh, it's so violent. They don't kill people. They'll shoot and shoot out their vehicle, shoot at their feet, shoot above their head. And for me, it works for the show. If you did that show nowadays, I just see people, I don't think people, I'm not sure people would buy into it, but at the same time, watch it, it did make them more endearing because they were not murderers, they were not vigilantes. Believe me, I love a good vigilante movie. People who know my channel know this. Whether it be The Punisher, whether it be, hell, John Wick films I love. Multiple moments. I mean, I have a Rambo cap. I have a Cobra poster right there. Hard Target. I mean, believe me, I love it. But here, it worked for these kind of characters, for the fun they're having. It'd be a bit weird for so much comedy and fun, and then they go and shoot people in the head. It'd be weird. Like, so it works. That's the thing with everything. There's always the exception to the rule. That works for this show. It was a fun show. The music, of course, I thought they did a great job with the music, especially the theme, like da 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 da. In 1972, I'm trying to remember the whole intro, but it's a great intro to the show. Tells you the whole story. If you have a problem, and if you can find them, maybe you can hire the A-Team. Da, 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 da. And the action was fun. You did practical. Like, you watch the show, and I'm just amazed with what they got away with. Because each episode was like a little mini movie with all the locations they went to. They were never like in just one studio. They went to here, they went to there. The explosions, car flips. I swear 98% of these episodes has a car flipping over. I'm not sure if this is true, but I think on the IMDb trivia, it was said that was like a running gag, like to try to have as many car flips as possible, because you have the most brutal car flip and smash, but the people come out and they're all right. So it was a running gag of how much they could push it. But I mean, like the beginning of season 4, B.A. Mr. T, he doesn't want to be on the plane. They're trying to get to their rendezvous. Mr. T drives right through the plane as the bad guys are chasing them and blows up the plane and stops the bad guys, but now the others are mad because they don't have a plane. But this is done for real, like real vehicles going through a real plane, real explosions. It's nowadays it'd be CGI filled or CGI enhanced. That's what kills me about the A-Team movie, which I reviewed that like when it came out 2010, but I don't know, maybe I'll talk about that another day. That they had so much fucking CGI in that film, and yet with a TV budget they have all done practically for real. So it just amazes me. But I mean, a lot of classic stuff. You have the great van with the red stripe on it. I'm not sure you can see it. There you go. A lot of running motifs, whether you're trying to find a way to get Murdock out of the insane asylum, or for him to go on the mission, or like I said, the interaction between BA and Murdock. Even little stuff like when Hannibal at his off time he acts in monster movies wearing a monster costume, like the Aquamaniac or something. There's a fun little reference for Dirk Benedict where he's at, I think it was Universal Studios, and he sees like a Cylon walk by, and he's like, because he was on the original Battlestar Galactica. And also, it's fun watching these old shows, and you notice so many recognizable faces who either played a supporting character, an ally to the A-Team, a friend to the A-Team, or a villain, or a subordinate to the villain. I mean, just to name a few, some of the people who played either the villain or, again, a henchman to the villain. You have Brian James, you got Wayne Hauser, you got John Saxon, you got Lance Henriksen. I think Andrew Robinson was in one or two. Yaphet Kotto was a villain in one. Ken Foray was in one. Dennis Franz might have been in two, him. And it was funny, is like some of these actors like Wayne Hauser, John Saxon, and I think Dennis Franz, like they would come back on the show and play a different character or a different villain. But I mean, Tia Carrera was an ally. She was in one episode, and in fact, they wanted her to be an ongoing character, but I believe she had a deal with General Hospital. I believe she could not get out of. But that would have been interesting. I like Tia Carrera. But she's in an episode. Hulk Hogan was in 2 episodes as an ally, which made sense because... And he plays himself, Hulk Hogan. Because Mr. T worked with Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 1, and Mr. T botched Roddy Piper in that crappy match in WrestleMania 2. When you got to season 4, you had appearances by people like Isaac Hayes and Richard James and Boy George. Yeah, quite a few like recognizable faces on there. I'm trying to think of others. I know there's a ton of others. I don't know, but I mean, again, that's the fun of watching these old shows. I mean, you have season 1 here. Just to show each of them. And it's hard to pick like top 10 or whatever favorite episodes. The first season was only 14 episodes. And the way the show started was you had this reporter named Amy Allen, which she didn't last. I think it was in the second season that she sort of disappeared. For what I understand, the actress complained a lot because she wanted to be more on the action and use guns, which is understandable to me, but things didn't work out. After the A-Team rescues Children of Jamestown, the A-Team rescues a girl from a crazed cult leader. That's one of the villains John Saxon played on the show. BA's friend is held in a prison where the warden holds fight-to-the-death boxing matches. I believe that's... I forgot his name. He played Conan's dad at the beginning of the Arnold Schwarzenegger film Conan the Barbarian. I think William Smith. And there's one episode they're helping shopkeepers, against racketeers. One in which they deal with a renegade SWAT team. I think that's the one where Dean Stockwell is in it. In one episode they crash in the backwoods and deal with mountain men. Yeah, the Beast from the Belly of Boeing was the one I was talking about. Where that moment where BA is catatonic and Murdock's like talking to him and slaps him. That one I remember a lot when I was a kid. That's definitely one of my favorite episodes. I could say that. Well, I just say it was a huge hit and did very well, but they never got the respect they deserved. And then you had season 2. On a quick note, what would have been fun to see, and instead of the season 5 they went to, which I'll get to that, I think what would have been nice is, okay, you do 4 seasons, you're saying your ratings are slipping. Either do TV movies, or do an actual movie. I think that would have been cool. Like after season 4, do an actual movie with a budget. I mean, if you did give if studios, they gave a budget to like Remo Williams with Fred Ward, which is a fun movie, or even Firewalker with Chuck Norris. I mean, films that have went to theaters. I could buy the A-Team getting a movie in the theaters, especially with how big they were. Even if the ratings slipped in season 4, I think they should have done a movie. And maybe, if that's a hit, you could do movies instead of TV shows. Instead of episodes. Another thing is, it would have been nice if they did crossovers. Like if they did a crossover with Knight Rider. I think that would have been fun. I can imagine, B.A., Murdock, and Kit. Murdock talking with Kit and pissing B.A. off, and David Hasselhoff and Dirk Benedict trying to hit on the same girl, and you do have a crossover with MacGyver, and MacGyver one-ups them on making stuff. I mean, you have a crossover with multiple shows. I'm sure you guys can name some, but you have season 2. Which this season they got about 23 episodes. Episode where they deal with diamond mine in Zimbabwe. In one episode they're trying to help a cook they had when in the past they were in a POW camp. That's actually Mako, M-A-K-O, who was in Conan the Destroyer, and a little bit of Conan the Barbarian. And sadly, he passed away. He was the voice of Splinter in the 2007 TMNT CG film. Hannibal goes undercover as an illegal alien in order to save a sick woman who is left behind by border smugglers. This is a fun one when you're coming back Range Rider, because they're dealing with wild horse rustlers, and Murdock has this thing where he wears his mask and says he's the Range Rider. the range rider and pisses Mr. T off. I'm tired of you talking about imaginary friends. B.A., you see that horse? Is he imaginary to you? Is he invisible to you? Well, you can't talk, fool. Well, horse or horse, of course. And he does the Mr. Ad, and Mr. T's ready to choke the shit out of him. There's an episode where they're dealing with a renegade taxi company trying to take another one out. In that episode, you have Michael Ironside as a bad guy and Ernie Hudson as a person who needs the A-Team's help. Steel, that's a pretty good one when they're dealing with a construction company sabotaged by a mobster who has an interest in this building site, because you find out that the guy murdered someone and put it in the belly of the site, and they don't want the construction company digging it up. A gang robs busloads of tourists. Speedy Auto Thieves. That one had Dennis Franz from NYPD Blue in it. A-Team joins forces with a minister to stop the production of deadly homemade hooch. A security firm's employee isn't feeling so secure after she warns the A-Team about an upcoming ambush. By this time, the reporter, Amy, that was long gone. Again, I guess apparently because the actress complained too much. So they left her out, and then they got another girl, and the character named Tanya, and she lasted maybe the rest of season 2, maybe a little of season 3, but she didn't last too long. And then you get to season 3, which I think might have been their most successful season. I could be wrong. So for some reason I want to think it was season 3. It's definitely one of my favorite seasons. I mean, there's a 2-part episode where they're dealing with evil pirates on the Amazon. There's an episode where they're helping firefighters. A fun episode when they're helping people at a logging company deal with corrupt union organizers. This one episode where this other group pretends to be the A-Team, and so the real A-Team goes in to kick ass and clear their names. This one I would say is one of my favorite episodes, Breakout, where B.A. and Murdock, they get put in jail for something they didn't do, and then at one point they're handcuffed to each other and they have to escape the law. Since I like those two characters so much, that was a very fun episode. Just like I said, these two especially had great chemistry with each other, great back and forth with each other. So again, if I had a top 10 favorite, now that airplane one I mentioned would be on it, and Breakout would definitely be on there. BA goes undercover in this adventure involving boxing and drug trafficking ring. Stiens, that's another one I enjoyed, where they go to Kenya to deal with poachers who are killing elephants. That's one I remember when I was a kid seeing. That's a fun one. While protecting a man and his blind sister, the A-Team discover a dirty plot to dump toxic waste. So you see a pattern where it's the A-team helping regular folk in some kind of business or some kind of situation, whether it be dealing with taxi drivers, semi-drivers, logging companies, counterfeit paintings, car thieves, like chop shops, rescues, things of that nature. And then you get to season 4, which, like I said, this is when the ratings started to dip, and I don't get why, because watching this season again, it's a fun season. I mean, like I mentioned before, when the first episode, which is like a 2-parter, and Mr. T drives the truck right through an airplane, blows it up. One fun one is they're trying to they're working undercover, but at the same time, and they're off when they're not on missions. They do other jobs. One of them is, like I said, Hannibal is an actor in monster movies, and so the A-team helps him make this movie, but while on location, these bad guys and this war criminal are around and give them trouble. One fun little tidbit, watching it again, when they're ready to watch the movie and they have a little premiere, not even a premiere, but like a first screening, the poster for the film that they made, it's the film Alligator with Robert Forster. They just changed the title. So they're like, wait a minute, that poster looks familiar. That's fucking Alligator, Robert Forster. They took the Alligator poster, but they just put in a different name on it. But this is the season, like I said, that you had... Well, I haven't said it yet, but this is the season where... Hulk Hogan was in 2 episodes. There was an episode with Boy George. There was an episode with Rick James. I think that's the one that also had Isaac Hayes in it. Which, granted, I guess... maybe they were trying to use that as gimmicks to get ratings up. But I still enjoy them. I thought they were fun episodes. I liked the episode when Mr. T, B.A.'s mother, she needs help. I thought you had some fun interactions with Murdock and B.A. and you get to know a little bit about Mr. T's character. But yeah, the A-team is captured by General Fulbright and taken to Vietnam, where he expects them to find his long-lost daughter in exchange for their freedom. That's the one with Tia Carrera in it. And one of the only times you actually see someone die on an episode, like, because the General Fulbright character does die. Because, I mean, they can't have their freedom yet, because the show would be over. And yeah, I mean, not every episode is a winner, sure, but for the most part, like I said, fun, popcorn, entertainment, escapism. Then you get to the 5th season. And this is where the shit hits the fan. Because the first 4 seasons to me are great. They're great, they're solid, very fun. Enjoyed at least 95, 98 of the episodes. And the ones I didn't, I didn't hate them. They're just but majority of episodes I really enjoyed. Because this is back in the day when you could have just a standalone episode each week. nowadays everything's got to have this ongoing story, and you better make sure you watch the past 5 episodes or you won't understand what's going on. Which, that's fine, but if you're asking a preference, I prefer episodes that, I mean, hell, look at X-Files. What are the best episodes? The standalone episodes. Kojak the Night Stalker. Even, like CSI Miami, they're pretty much just each one a standalone episode. Maybe you have like a little bit of reference to a character, and if you watch all of them, you get a little bit more of the characters. You even do that with the A-Team. Like, you get to know a little bit about Dirk Benedict's character, that he was an orphan, and there's one episode where you find out this one guy was his father, but he doesn't know until it's too late and the guy has died. So if you watch long enough, you get to know a little bit about the characters, but for the most part, it's a fun action show. But season 4, again, for some reason, the ratings were dwindling, because good season, but then they did season 5. And instead of not doing it and doing a movie, or maybe doing some crossovers with other shows, maybe it's one of those things that there's only so much you can do, meaning the show was in a certain niche where you don't really want to see it too dramatic, so it can't do that. The violence can only go so far, so you can't do that. I mean, you can't do something crazy like Baywatch Nights. If all 4 of you who remember Baywatch Nights, where David Hasselhoff was a lifeguard on Baywatch, then he was a detective in season 1, and then in season 2, it was the X-Files, pretty much. Yes, David Hasselhoff as his character from Baywatch, investigating cases that you would see from X-Files. That's Baywatch Nights. Almost ingenious in its insanity. And I will be honest, I'd rather see that than this season 5. Just fuck it. A-Team battling vampires and zombies and fucking sea monsters and whatever. I'd rather see that shit than the season 5 we got. So it would not have been worse. They decided with season 5 to change things up, and this just was not a fun season. They add 2 new characters, which you did not need. If I could get the damn thing up. Robert Vaughn, who is General Stockwell, who makes this elaborate plan to have the A-Team first 4 seasons, I should say, they were on the run from the military because of a crime they didn't commit in Vietnam, where they robbed this bank, but really they were following orders and they didn't really do it, and they've been on the run since. But then Robert Vaughn's character makes this elaborate plan to get them on trial for murder. People bullshit and lie their way, then fake the A-Team's death, and then be like, okay, you guys are going to work for me, otherwise you're going back to jail, into a firing squad, or whatever. So pretty much the A-Team had to work for Robert Vaughn, and then they add this other character. I already forgot what the fuck his name was, who was a special effects guy, and Hannibal, George Papar's character, knew him. It became part of the team, and just stuck out like a sore thumb. This character did not work at all. Look at that picture. Even in the picture, he looks like a goof. A fucking goof. Like I said, just did not work at all. He didn't fit well with the dynamic. He wasn't that interesting of a character. he's a special effects guy, but at times he can fight, and at times he can handle a gun. Okay. In this season, it didn't seem as fun. It didn't seem as entertaining. Murdock's character, Dwight Schultz's character Murdock seemed a bit more serious and less crazy in this season. It's like you saw him more angry than funny and crazy. There were not a lot of scenes of Murdock and BA doing their chemistry together. It was a lot more Murdock hanging out with Face, and it seemed like a lot more of this new guy hanging out with BA than anything. And I swear, I could be wrong, the second half of this season, you didn't see a lot of Mr. T. I don't know if like some other thing going on, some contract thing, or okay, I'll do a 5th season, fool, but I don't have a limited amount of time. And no jibber jabber talk. I don't know if that's the case, but again, when you get to the second half, it didn't seem like Mr. T did much. And it seemed like there were episodes where it was mainly these two guys, Dwight Schultz and Dirk Benedict. At least that's what it seemed like. And the missions, because they were working for Robert Vaughn, it wasn't helping the common folk. It was trying to be more Mission Impossible, which just made it less interesting. Funny enough, the 5th season reminds me of the 2010 movie, as if the people who did the 2010 movie, they only saw this of the A-Team. Joe Carney, fucking dickwad, who later on in interviews would go, I didn't give a shit about the A-Team because he was butthurt that he didn't get Mission Impossible 3 because he was in pre-production Mission Impossible 3. Him and Tom Cruise had different opinions. So Joe Carney, Walt got fired, got butt-fucked, whatever. And, well, I want to take what I learned from, I didn't get to do Mission Impossible 3, but I want to take what I learned and do a big-budget movie. So he did the A-Team. And there is an interview you can find of Joe Carnahan. I'm not making this up. Like, type in on Google, like, Joe Carnahan, A-Team, Mission Impossible. Something to that effect. And you'll see videos where it's, I don't give a shit about the A-Team. I just wanted to... I mean, yeah, it shows watching the movie you didn't give a shit about the A-Team, you fuckwit. But that movie seemed like this, where it tried to be more Mission Impossible, only shitty. But again, I'll talk about the A-Team, the 2010 movie sometime. Maybe after this. If I post this, maybe you guys can let me know if you want me to do a commentary on it, or just a review, or both. Maybe I'll do both. I don't know. We'll see. But this was a junk season, and they didn't even... There wasn't even really a true end to the show. Which is funny, because they knew it was going to be the end, because even though Without Reservations... that's the last episode listed. The actual last episode is The Grey Team. And you know what? Because Murdock, Dwight Schultz's character, is wearing a shirt called Finny. F-I-N-I. Which means the end. So it's like, well, why didn't you do a full ending where pretty much all you did is, what do you think would happen if we did get a pardon? Well, what do we qualify for? Guess we continue to do what we're doing right now. Which is fine. I mean, there are worse endings. I mean, fuck, I mean, this ending, sad to say, this season and ending is still better than the X-Files revival, which I ranted on, and I love X-Files season 1 through 9, but those revivals, season 10, 11, were such horse shit. Like, those are more rant-worthy. Like, this is just lame. And again, could have just done movies or something. Or again, just go bash insane. Go, 18 version of Kolchak the Night Stalker or something. I don't know. Just say fuck it at that point. If they don't give a shit about you, just say fuck it. But yeah, this is definitely the weakest of the seasons. With that said, I don't even know how long this video will be. Probably too long, but I mean, it's talking about a show that lasted 5 seasons. A lot to talk about. The music works well for the show. Fun action sequences. Great chemistry between the four. Definitely, I mean, Rocky 3, you just say... I would say this made Mr. T more of a star than Rocky 3. Rocky 3 introduced the world of Mr. T, like who he is. This really made him a star. And sad to say, a lot of these guys, they didn't do much after this work-wise. And even some of the actors mentioned about how after the show ended, they could not find jobs because the show was so looked down upon and so ridiculed. So they couldn't get jobs. I mean, Dwight Schultz went on to do voice work. You look up his credits, he's done a lot of voice work for cartoons and video games. Dirk Benedict, he did a couple movies. One I haven't seen, but I've seen trailers for, called Blue Tornado, which looks like a very cheap, low-budget movie about fighter pilots and UFOs, which sounds better than what the trailer looked. George Papard passed away, I think, around 94. And Mr. T, if you really think about it, the only thing Mr. T has really done since then, I think he did another show called like TNT, or I never saw it, but I've heard of it. Even had the Mr. T cartoon. But after that, mainly commercials. I mean, he did the World of Warcraft commercial. I think he did like Snickers commercials and things that, I mean, mainly commercials and appearances. But yeah, sad to say, no one really talks about the A-Team nowadays, and if they do, they look down upon it, or they scoff at it, and that's a nothing show. But I call bullshit on that. It's a fun, entertaining show that deserves its place on the pop culture lexicon, and still a fun watch to this day. I'll still gladly take the A-Team over any show nowadays. Because I love it when a plan comes together. I don't know how else to end this, but thanks for watching. Take care. We will see you guys in the next video. Later.